Don't even laugh at me in the distance. I can see you.
I just turned my
don't
camera
feel
on and
happy.
I am immediately in trouble and I'm the good one.
It's true.
Really? Really?
That I'm the good one? Absolutely. 100%.
Well, then who's the bad one?
Everyone else?
Yeah, don't answer that.
That's valid. All right. Hi, friends. Everyone, welcome to our AMA. We are here and we showed up and no one died. So that's very exciting for us. You are more than welcome to have your camera turned on, but we do ask that you keep your volume off just because there's a bunch of people here, which is really exciting. And we all get really excited and talk over each other. And if all of us did it, it would be a nightmare. So here we are. When we do open questions, Lena, who is going to adjudicate / MC for us, will be pulling from, questions from the audience. So that's a thing. But that's kind of what I got for you. I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Lena and be like, here, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Thickett AMA. And yes, Unique, you cannot message everyone. You are only going to be able to DM the hosts right now, which means that the questions will come to me and I get to control the information. Wah, ha, 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 ha. Really quickly, why don't we start off with who is here, who's on your panel today? I'm going to start off myself. My name is Lena Wolf, she, her. I am part of the Thickett dev team and have been working with Cirque du Nuit, the parent company, for, oh my gosh, almost 4 years now, I think. I don't know. I lost track of time. And it's a magical, wonderful thing that we've built. And I'm going to allow everyone to do a little introduction. You also may know me as some of the actors. And also everyone just start off with your favorite character that you've done, or if you're a dev person, what something is that you've done. I think my favorite might be the Trapper from Quest 4, 3, 4, one of those, where we were catching pastries. Great. Quest 3. Thank you, everyone, for helping me with this.
Or with detective, senior detective, junior cousin Fuqua, Gardner.
That was also great. Okay, really quickly, I'm going to jump in here and answer one question that we just got of what does AMA stand for? AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. This is an open forum. We've had questions submitted from all of you lovely humans who are here joining us today. And we will also be taking questions as they pop up. We might not be able to get to everything, but we are going to do our very best. I'm also going to just pass it off to, before we go and introduce everybody, some rules. We have some adorable little things that we've come up with during our development of Thickett.
Is this when you talk about goons?
This is where we talk about goons.
Okay.
Yes. Generally, if you have a question and you would like to ask it, the order of operations of asking the question is done based on goons. So if, for example, Owen would like to ask a question, Owen would, one moment please, I'm going to say everyone publicly now, so Owen can message the group and say, goons. Wonderful example. This means that you have an important question and the host will not miss it. It will be listed then in an order of operations. And we will be starting with our AMA list, so that is not to be worried about. So if anything just pops up in your head, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay. So if you have a very, very urgent goons, also known as a question, you can pop that in the chat.
Before we move on past that, can we get our ASMR goons from Owen, please?
Yes, we will introduce Owen with his ASMR goons for all of us.
Happy to provide.
Beautiful. Thank you, Owen, for that one. Now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel of Thickett people. Caitlin Chin, will you please start us off and then pass it along to our other folks?
to someone else. Hi friends, my name is Caitlin Chin. I own Cirque du Nuit and am the head developer showrunner for Thickett. And that is what I do. I live under my desk right here. And yeah, so I started CDN, which is what I call Cirque du Nuit because CDN is just easier to say. So I started CDN 5 years ago. We started working in immersive and interactive theater and blending circus and immersive theater together, very specifically because my background is in classical ballet and aerial arts, and then also in theater. So I just took everything I knew how to do and smashed it together. And so we've been working a lot with unusual art in unusual places and have had a really good time doing that up until this point. And then COVID hit, and then I sat around on my hands for about 4 months having an existential crisis, and then said to everyone, do you guys want to make something weird? Let's do that. And then Thickett was born. So here we are. And so now pretty much what I do is run Thickett. There's very little sleeping. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna send it on over to Kirsten. How about that?
I felt that coming. As soon as I laughed again, I was like, oh, she's going to call my name. And my kid just fell off of her bed. I'm Kirsten. my favorite character that I've played is Fox Handler because she is the most fleshed out of all of my characters. I also work in dev. And I just show up in Cirque du Nuit stuff whenever Caitlin calls me. And I'm going to pass it to Owen now because my child is banging on my door.
Hi, I'm Owen. I am a Thickett dev and the rabbit handler and the barkeep and a variety of other stuff. I've been working with Cirque du Nuit for actually 2 years now. My first gig, I was a bee for 13 hours. So I was sold after that point. I was in. I got to reprise my role as bees, as the Hornets later on, which was a great flashback. Yeah. Oh, my pronouns are he, him. Should have stuck that at the beginning. And yeah, I had the same sort of existential crisis, and this popped up as a possible continuation of doing immersive theater, and it just took off from there, and I have had a great time since. My favorite character is probably the rabbit handler, although Dark Horse favorite character was the existential croissant, because it was very fun to play an existential French croissant. And I'm going to pass it to Jen and Greg. Gren.
Great, good.
Good. Hi, I'm Jen. Most of you know me as Witch of the Woods because that's my character really most of the time. So I guess that's like the backwards forwards of that. I write for Legendary Handbook, help with the meta for the show. I'm getting on board, trying to help with company stuff more recently. And probably my favorite thing right now is what I'm working on for interim content. I've been going for it this week. So that's your little teaser for the rest of the show.
I'm Greg. Hi, everyone. Pronouns are he, him.
Oh, she, her. Sorry.
Jen and I were both kind of latecomers to Thickett, but started off working on the podcast. I now am a co-puzzle designer and do a lot of work on meta plot for Thickett and the Legendary Handbook as a whole.
Plus
yeah.
cameo in the last quest, if you missed it, as uncurable.
Yes.
Yeah.
You may have met me in the last quest, off in a little corner, as the incurable. That being my first live role, but I've been behind the scenes for a while now. So it's lovely to meet you all. Let's pass it along to Theodosia.
Hello, I'm Theodosia, pronouns she, her. I play a variety of different characters and also became the Raven Handler partway through. Been working with Cirque du Noir for like a year now. Caitlin saw me at a different show and asked me to break into a person's house, and no, you're not getting more context for that. The favorite character of the show, a lot of favorites, particularly a fan of Osibo the Leopard, because it is the most out there. I like playing very active characters, which is hard when you're in front of a webcam. I found a way to do it. I'm passing it off to Brishan.
There we go. Hi, I'm Brishan. Pronouns he, him. I was the cobbler and also the guest director for Quest 5, the Anansi quest. You would have seen me as Niami, the Sky God, as a disembodied voice. It's always fun to be a disembodied voice. Thickett is my first venture into Cirque de Nuit. I used to live in the home that Caitlin now lives in. And so that's how I kind of got on board with the project. It is a crazy, fun, and interesting world and a very different place to direct in that bridges on a video game. And I'm glad to be here. And that's all I have to say. I think I should pass it on to Nicole.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole, she, her, and this is my first project with Cirque de Nuit, and it has been amazing. I've been on cast. I played the Devil and Villager Becca Loon and Princess Alexa, and my favorite character is probably the Devil, but also Princess Alexa got to wear a shiny sparkly crown, so it's a toss-up. And this has been an amazing experience. I'm a Renaissance Festival performer full-time, and so bringing the immersiveness of Renaissance festivals into a virtual world in a way that just regular streaming doesn't do has been like really awesome and enlightening to me to be able to see during these pandemic times, I can still do the exact thing that I love virtually. So that's me. And I'm going to toss it to Miriam.
Hey, Miriam, she, her. You all know me as Georgie. You also all stealth know me as Observer. I did not follow you. That was the others. My role in Thickett is my role in Thickett is I do puzzles. I'm the second half of the puzzle team. I do art direction and kind of Topia direction art wise for that. Yeah, I'm also involved in Legendary Handbook, the podcast, and kind of the meta story overall, and on the dev team in general. So that's me. Georgie is a blast to play. I guess that's the only role I've played. That's the only character I've played. So I guess Georgie's my favorite. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to Sierra.
Hi, I'm Sierra. I use she, her pronouns. My first adventure with CDN was also the one that Owen mentioned, where we were bees for 13 hours. It was a lot of fun. I've had so much fun doing Thickett so far. Yeah, I had the great adventure and honor of being the Raven Handler for the first 4 quests. But I do think that my favorite character to be was the Gingerbread Man, because I just got to be a little shit, and it was really great. Yeah, I'm a full-time circus student at Circadium in Philadelphia. It's a circus college, and so that's why I've been in and out of Thickett recently. It takes a lot of energy, and acting with my face and my words is new for me. So it's been fun to like do that instead of do handstands, which is what I normally do. But yeah, that's me. I'm gonna pass it to Unique.
Doop. Hi everybody, I'm Unique Trappin O'Brien. I use he, him pronouns. I wave my hand. I've been working with Cirque de Nuit since 2016. That's the earliest iteration of it, I believe.
Are you talking about when we did the
Pier.
Really?
July Pier. That would be the first ever instance. As you watch, Caitlin and I literally like scan through our minds and be like, when did this start? Whenever it started, I was there. And by some series of small miracles, I'm still here, despite me. I was part of the original dev team in development. Have done a lot of writing bits and bobs. Am serving now as like an actor and performer, and was the fox handler in the beginning, as well as just a whole sort of box of dumb as a rock people in any given quest. I found my lane, and I would say of my box of rocks, I think the shiniest and most special to me is Villager Victor, because man, y'all are so nice to that person. I just really like it when you make a character who has a need and people take it seriously and start investing in it. So that was always really fun. I really enjoyed that. Cool. Do we have in our participants? There's so many of us here. Who do we have left on the Thickett team that needs a quick introduction?
I think that's everybody.
I think that's everyone.
All
So
I will say, really, I'm gonna butt in and say, Unique, I just verified that Greg and I saw the sand and something that was November 25th.
Sand.
Yes.
So
that's
I was a producer. Caitlin Chin was a producer on that show, but CDN did not exist yet.
I know, but I'm saying I think that was just before. So yeah, 2016 would have been it. That's
Time flies when you're having fun.
Fun.
Better you kill everyone. I don't know.
okay. I am playing fun organization over here, and I'm going to kick off our questions. So this first question, I'm also going to go ahead and paste all the questions in the chat. So if you are like me and like to read things instead of listen to them, you can do that. The first question that we have is, how did you come up with the idea for Thickett? How has it grown and changed from its original concept? And how many of those changes were unexpected? So I am going to first off ask Caitlin to chime in on that first part of how did we come up with Thickett?
Yeah, okay, that's a lengthy question, because when I first gathered people for this concept, we before the pandemic, we had created an in-person show called Strange Feast. So I've been obsessed with Grimm's fairy tales and fairy tales in general for a very long time. I love fairy tales. And also the why and the weird reasons for them and all of the information behind them. And so when we developed Strange Feast, the concept was delving into the history of the Brothers Grimm, and then we were also going to be having it as an in-person event at who remembers what it's called?
Glenford on the Delaware.
Glenford on the Delaware. Yeah, Glenford on the Delaware also, yes, a very long time. Shame on you, Unique. Glenford on the Delaware, which has a very long, lengthy history with a bunch of really interesting people as well. So we had gathered a cast, literally rehearsed it. It was going to be storytelling blended with food and immersive adventure, very fun, also very serious, but like a whole thing. And then the pandemic came crashing down, like right as we were gonna launch this. I think we had started by saying we were gonna have it mid-March, around then, and run for 2 weekends or something like that. I don't remember, but then it was like, and then we said, oh, let's do it in May, and then it was like, right? And so after I came out of my existential crises eggshell moment, contacted everyone from the cast of Strange Feast, contacted everybody from CDN who I knew would also be in this kind of weird turmoil moment, and said, who wants to make some weird art? Because that's what we do with intent, not weird art for the sake of making weird art, but because we like telling stories, we're storytellers. And I also, Unique had launched the Telelibrary and had this beautiful proof of concept for like having a digital piece that is both very difficult and intricate and also very lo-fi. And so being able to tell stories in a very specific and unusual way, you know, what does that look like? My other thing too was like, I wanted to have fairy tales. I'm obsessed with fairy tales. Let's start there. Can we start there? Going forward from there with the dev team, everyone had ideas. We spent a lot of time just bouncing back, like months of just like ping pong, you know, talking about stuff. And then eventually, by the time we got to like October, we're like, we kind of have an idea of what this looks like. I don't know, let's just do it. Because you can literally spend forever. You know, you hit the point where you're like, I either am going to do it or I'm going to sit here and nitpick on this for the rest of my life. And what Caitlin does, so like my job as head of CDN and also like in life, I'm like, hey, this seems like a good idea. Let's, you know, do it. So that's kind of where the idea came from. We went through a number of different iterations before we hit on Thickett as it is now, but it came out of Strange Feast. It came out of all of our experiences. It came out of people trying to, you know, live in a regular world digitally. And I think that was a huge part of why we were like, oh, we could do this. This seems like a really interesting and prescient topic. Unique, did you want to jump in on that at all?
I think you covered most of it. I think the
Amazing.
Strange Feast connection is super big, and we had already had this idea of what it means when people can kind of reach their hands into tales and change them. And I think CDN as a company has always been interested in making kind of grand, epic, magical, realist spaces that people can interact with.
Yeah.
And spaces that kind of open a window and create an opportunity for someone to wrestle with any number of things and kind of bring their own meaning to. So I think for Caitlin, it was really about using this lens of stories, using all of this research that we had already done on that show, and asking what would be a new presentation for this particular moment.
I'm seeing that Miriam has a goons on that. Lena, do we have time?
Yes, actually, Miriam, if you want to jump in and add on, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add basically that another thing that we were considering as we were making this is we didn't want to just make an overly serious darkety dark piece, because that's not what we need right now. That's not what we would want. That's not what we feel like people want right now, because the world is pretty darkety dark. And so one of the things we really wanted to do, and we were really working towards as we were in this like early development process, was trying to make it something that was fun and, you know, could lean into dark themes here and there when we wanted it to, but didn't live there all the time. Make it something kind of fun and escapist to try to bring some, you know, some light and joy into people's lives where we couldn't otherwise. So that was another kind of thing in the development process that was, I feel like, was really big and is part of what makes Thickett.
That actually real fast, sorry, Lena, sparks one thing for me too. You're like, I was gonna, no, okay. But like one of the things that I really focus on when we start to build pieces, right? And like when we get paid by corporate companies to like build a thing, they're like, we want you to build this around Steppenwolf, or like what, you know, like really grand idea things, but they don't make the core of what they're trying to tell or communicate to people accessible. And so for me, it was really important of like, here are all these themes and we're layering them on top of each other. So like, that's part of Thickett, was like being able to structure a universe that has all of these things that you can access and touch and influence and like drink in. But as you're doing that, it's also like giving you insight into the why and like what's important to, like the letters from the princess, the way that we craft the stories that we send to you guys as the untamed tale, like all of those pieces, and sort of shaping what you see and then what you do. And so insider info, the whole moral of Thickett so far is insight into the journey like of the hero's tale. what is the hero's tale? Because there's in your brain, there's like one way that you're supposed to see it. And I was like, that's stupid. I'm in my 30s. I'm not gonna be some 16-year-old climbing up the side of a mountain, whatever. Like, and I'm gonna continue to be a hero forever, even if I'm also a jerk. Like there's layers to that. And like, so you're telling part of Thickett is being able to like building a project where everyone can tell their own story and influence the larger picture, because that to me is important. Having a universe that you can reach out and touch. Cool. I'm going to stop talking about that.
Yep.
Sorry, everyone. Thanks, Lena.
Awesome. Caitlin has a lot of really wonderful insight, and without Caitlin and Unique's direction, Thickett would not be here. Also, have to thank all of you, because you have all come on this journey with us of we're not really sure what we're doing. So to kind of answer the very end of that question before we move on to the next one, of how many of these changes were unexpected and or influenced by the players of the game? A lot. We learned a lot through season 1 of what worked, what didn't work, what do we want to do better? And that is a completely different discussion that we probably won't have time to even touch on today, because we're still debriefing and figuring it out. And that's what this is great for. But yes, there was a lot that was influenced by people coming in, either actors or new directors or even seekers, and all of the ways that we've integrated and been able to touch people's lives has been unbelievable. Was going to make another point and completely forgot it, but actually this is the, here was the point. Can I have my original dev team of, hey, who wants to make stuff? Just raise your hand. So everyone who was with us since July. Yeah, since then, you can see that our team has grown. We also had Lucy, who is not with us today, our stage manager. The behind the scenes is a lot that you don't get to see. And I know we have some questions coming up, so let's dive into those a little bit further. This next question, I'm going to specifically direct to Unique and Brescian, since they are some of our story makers and dramateurs for Thickett, of how do y'all pick, whoops, that was meant to go to everyone. Sorry, when somebody messages me, it automatically makes me reply directly to them. How do we pick a story? What makes a story good for adapting to Thickett? So Unique, if you could please start us off with that original concept of how did we come to Godfather Death? Why was that something that we were drawn to, our decision-making process, and then Brescian as a guest director, how did your experience differ, or the similarities with Unique and the way that we have constructed our story picking process in the past? And Unique, go ahead and take that question.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is as a group, right? That it's always this kind of huddle with the dev team and spending time throwing stories at each other. I think a slightly longer answer is a lot of that same core team, in fact, pretty much a perfect mapping of that same core team, were folks who were involved in That Strange Feast. So we had, initially we had these tales that we had already been obsessed with. There's something to do with the Grimm tales that we talk a lot about, that there are all these themes and patterns and the Arne Thompson story types, but there's also this kind of very difficult to name quality to them. It's a little bit somewhere between like unsense and randomness and magic, and like there's this edge that just feels like fairy tale. You don't know why. Like, oh, that's fairy tale logic. So I think we were really interested in that, and also just all of us obsessed with all these little elements of Godfather Death. And it led us to this cluster of stories that we're still exploring over the long arc of the piece. And so it contained a lot of the themes. And then I think moving forward, as we try to pick new tales, some things that really stand out to us are stories where there's already a couple perspectives clear, where you can already see like how this could be a few people's story. Stories where it feels like people are making big choices that could have gone differently. So I think one of the one of the guiding writing voices in the room now is actually the departments, particularly once Seekers got in and started really defining the character of those departments. The more y'all play and sort of establish what the game is like in each department, I think the easier it is for us in a writing room, and I see Owen and folks nodding their heads, I think the easier it is for us to read a story and be like, oh, rabbits would have a field day with this, right? Or like, oh, ravens would be really strongly. So initially we were picking stories to try and that would structurally support multiple departments. And I think over time that has shifted to sort of letting the departments in some way guide our interest. But there's still a kind of hunting and drafting of finding a story where we don't know how it would play out. And I think that's the ideal, is something where we feel like, ooh, that's interesting. I wonder what they would do. I wonder how that kind of pushes the edge of what it means to be a rabbit or a fox or a raven. I want to bounce it to Grecian, yes, or
Yeah,
Fiorina.
so specifically with Quest 5, Anansi tales were brought along because a lot of our fairy tales exist in a very Charlemagne era Anglo-Saxon world, and we wanted more, Thickett specifically wanted more diversity to be able to tell folk and fairy tales that exist in all cultures. And Anansi is one that everyone ends up reading some version of some Anansi tale growing up. It's one that's it's just as much a part of you as gingerbread men. You know, that these stories exist in other places, but it also provides for the opportunity for one thing that Thickett does, which I learned once joining, is the versions of the story make up the world you create, because each of these 6 quests came from stories where there are countless, dozens and dozens of versions of them. And so part of what the dev team does is take these versions and cobble it together to make it to be a story that works best for Seekers and the 3 departments. And so once we had landed on that it's going to be an Anansi story, and that now we know kind of which way we want to go, we now have to compile all of the mythos together and kind of divide that in a way that works for the world of Thickett. So a lot of stories are adapted kind of, you know, in terms of based on, you know, which, you know, just to take Quest 5 as an example, you know, whether it's Caribbean or West African or North South American, you know, there are different cultures that tell Anansi different. So we have to find the best way to do this that works for the departments and that works with the overall princess, you know, book of turns world. So a lot of what's done in the dev room is saying like, okay, we have this version of this story and we need it to go in this direction, so let's pull all of these pieces from other spots, and then you have to overlay that in a format of the Topia and of different actors coming into play, of saying like, how do we make this now interactive, and how do we make it manipulated, make it so it can be manipulated, and so you can take pieces out and add pieces in, and so you can have an untamed story that becomes a tamed story, and which is often different than any of the original stories. So there's a lot of vague amorphous adapting that goes into the different versions.
Great, thank you, Brishan, for that. I know that Owen has something he wants to add on about how we pick the stories, but I'm also going to introduce the next question because this involves our handlers. And specifically, I'd like to tap on Owen and Sierra to answer this question of, that's to one person. There we go. Can you discuss the inspiration and reasoning behind each department's ritual? But Owen, go ahead and quickly give your goons on how do we pick a story, and then feed into that question.
Yeah, this is just a quick add-on of one of the things that also comes up for us picking a story is pushing departments in a certain direction. There were stories that we picked of like, oh, this one actually gives the rabbits a chance to explore the dark side of rabbitdom, and that's an interesting quirk. And like giving departments other avenues to explore their personalities was a story quirk. But getting into rituals, so inspiration for I'll just do bun buns because each person has their own thing. Inspiration for bun buns was a little bit okay, we don't use the C word, but it was a little bit cult oriented in terms of like love bombing, which is a cult technique of bringing people.
Oh, that was an uncomfortable day talking about those.
Overwhelming people with positivity as they come in, and then you got them. But not quite, again. The other thing that happened is there's an improv game that we then adapted into the rabbit ritual. So mechanically, the rabbit ritual is based off of an improv game that we then took and were like, oh, this could be reimagined as like synchronicity, as like emphasizing what is the same about us and all this comfort of like sameness and what we know. And then it went from there, and celebrating joyful conformity and friendship, which is how we ended up with the bun bun ritual. And I want to pass it to Sierra, who did big time development on the Raven ritual.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, I have to run relatively shortly, so thanks for passing it to me. But I am super happy to be here. I mean, yeah, I was really resistant to online performing for a lot of months. I was like, it's not what I do. It's not what I'm trained in. And like, I don't want to be in Zoom. I was very like, I don't want to do it. And then Thickett was such a wonderful experience and has still been so fun that I'm always just like, no, this is where I actually want to be. And yeah, so it was, I mean, a lot of the like development of the rituals, we talked about, how do you engage people over Zoom? Because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to like not feel like you're being held accountable. It's not like being in a normal theater audience, right? Like there's just a different element to my screen is right here. I can switch to a different tab. I can do whatever. So yeah, it was a lot of discussing how to keep people engaged. And then from there, it was the focus of like, what is important to each department. I know that we had a lot of talk around how do we make the foxes like super confident, but not assholes. Like, how do we display all the sides of like ravens are, super committed to knowledge, which is great in some ways, but we didn't want to make it just always dull and always super serious. So part of the ritual is that like at arbitrary times, we have to do these really arbitrary things because it's like the great knowledge and the great rule of being a raven. And yeah, I mean, it was always really fun to work with Unique and Owen on like developing those, and so much of the ritual was making sure that we were getting you the information that you needed for the quest and for what was going on, but not like bombarding you with like 15 minutes of like, and then you're going to do this and this and this and this. So the play back and forth between like, it's still fun, but also pay attention to this part or you won't know what's going on. And I think we really didn't know how it was going to go. And then it was so exciting to see you guys take it and run with it. Like you have really influenced the rituals in a big way. And especially towards like quest 3 and quest 4, I was like, man, my ravens are really out ravening me. Like you guys would go in and learn more about the story than I knew and would be like way more on top of things, which is really fun. Like you do decide a lot of how the departments go. And it was great to see the rabbits like hold on to the best friend thing so much and to best friend like every single person in the quest. And yeah, it's fun to establish that and see you guys take it where you will.
Yeah, really quickly, Sierra, before you run away, if you could play another handler, which one would you play and why? And then go ahead and pass it off to our other handlers to answer that question. And then you can leave. Then you
This is a spicy question.
And then get out. I mean, we love you, but
I think, I mean, in my real life as a human, I think I'm so not a fox that I guess it would be rabbit, because I think I'm more of a rabbit who definitely has raven tendencies, but is not, raven through and through. And yeah, so I would be the rabbit handler if I wasn't the raven handler, I think. Unique, do you want to go on that?
What I will chime in here is that there is rampant and very well developed intra-dev team talk of like, oh, well, they're rabbit cusp raven with a sprinkling of fox-like tendency. Like it is as intricate as any astrology that you've ever heard. I would be the raven handler if I wasn't if that's another one that would like. That's who Unique would probably end up around. Caitlin entirely disagrees.
When you have the mustache, you are the rabbit handler. You would be the rabbit handler.
Well, the mustache. Any person with a mustache is the rabbit.
It's no. With the mustache, no beard, because this is when we filmed the intro videos. Unique called me and said, "Do you want me to leave the mustache or shave it?" And I was like, "No. You have to look like a cult leader. Leave the mustache."
I'd love to pass it to the new top dog, the Fox Handler Supreme.
As you should. If I was going to be any other handler, it would be the rabbit handler. I've been told many times that I am actually a bunny, and I can definitely play off fun-loving and be my friend and sort of out there way better than I can play I am intellectual and I know things, we are in the know. We are, yeah. See, I'm already flubbing it all up. But I do want to say, just like in addition to that, as far as the changeover from Unique to myself in being Fox, I wanted to like directly address that whole, we wanted foxes to be confident but not a-holes. When I took over, everyone very much felt like the foxes were a-holes. And I went out of my way because there's some language in the ritual, in the beginning ritual, that says they're like every fox is different. And so I sort of, as fox handler, started hanging on to that bit. And now we're more focused on like going and getting what we want, but doing it our own individual way and into individuality as opposed to manipulation, which is what everybody just felt like foxes were. Yeah, we're not about that anymore. Who? Oh, Owen. What fox? What handler? I just decided you would be fox handler. What handler
what fox
would you
would
be?
you be?
What fox would you be?
God, I feel very I just came here to have a good time, and I'm honestly feeling so attacked right now. No, I would probably be the fox handler. I think it would be very, I don't know, a very fun adjustment, because I think as a person, I am very bun. So it would be fascinating to emerge into Foxland, which sometimes seems like shadow bun, like true, like anti-bun.
And Theodosia, our newest ascension to handler category, you are now the Raven handler. What handler would you like to play if you were not Raven?
First of all, I just want to say that I'm forming a new band, deathcore, and it's called Anti-Bun. But I would probably want to do the fox handler. The buns are, y'all are insane. It's too much, in my opinion. I would have a lot of fun doing it, but also like I can only imagine what goes on in that room of just like best friends, and then it all flows out. It would just give my introverted side an existential crisis, and I would be like, nope, too much. Foxes are, in Kirsten's words, a-holes. But her words, not mine. Sorry, they're independent, but I feel like that's a much more chill vibe, in a way that I had one person ask me, like, how would what's the difference between the foxes, ravens, and rabbits? It was the first time playing, and I was like, well, I told them, like, well, foxes are very much into their own thing, kind of manipulative. Rabbits are a C word, CULT. And the Ravens are just chill. And that's what I like to think of it as. The Kirsten walked into the new handler position and all the foxes were just like, you killed him. And meanwhile, the Ravens, I walked in and I roosted in. It was just like, yeah, we Ravens work together in pairs, and I'm gonna be handling it from here out. And everyone's just like, ah, cool, and that's it. Move on, which is very much the vibe I want to go with. But foxes are cool. I'd want to join in on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Theodosia. Owen would like to jump in and give a little goons on that. And then also Brescian, who has not been a handler with us yet.
My quick goons is sometimes you reveal to yourself what department you really are. And I had one of my best friends try to come see the show. And she's like, okay, like I'm going to be in the rabbit department so I can see you do your thing. And she tested out as a fox and was literally went on a one-person wrecking campaign to get herself switched into the rabbit department, which is the most fox thing I've ever heard in my life. And I have not stopped making fun of her for it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad, because that was like a whole afternoon for me.
Yeah, I've been giving her grief about it ever since. Anyway,
Lena, can I just be a real and jump in with the goons before Brescian?
Ask Brescian.
Brescian, can I really fast? Okay, thanks. So I do all the sorting. There's no manual process, or like there's no automated process. I review every single person and I manually sort them. I am rarely wrong because I'm perfect in every way, which is untrue. But I'm just like I'm good at the sorting part. And it was really funny because Owen's friend was like, I'm gonna do this, and like as I'm writing the email, I'm like, I refuse to say that I'm doing this because I was wrong, because I wasn't wrong. I know that I'm not wrong. I'm doing this because you came here to see your friend. That was my story. I'm done.
I just want to add, to kind of soften the blow of calling foxes manipulative. During the Topia, all three departments manipulate wildly, whether through love or through knowledge or through whatever. To get to complete the job, you have to manipulate the NPCs in some way. So all three departments share that. They just show it differently. I just wanted to point that out.
Really quickly, since we have other non-handler actors, for Jen and Nicole, if you were a handler, which one would you play and why? Jen, go ahead and take that first, please, and then Nicole follow up.
I think foxes would be really fun. I mean, the witch is already kind of like an intimidating. I've never played, so I come from a Ren Fair background. I've always played characters that were so like happy to meet you and on it, and like maybe a little bit cynical, but just thrilled to be here. And this is the first time I've gotten to improv as someone who's like kind of despicable, like low key, deeply unlikable and mean. And that's been very fun. I hope you're all enjoying it. Because I tend to be like, it's my fantasy world and I will draw no boundaries and give you whatever you need. And so having a character with like rigid boundaries, this is a therapy session now, I should stop talking. But yeah, having that kind of like high walls that like watching you all kind of like, you know, like water through the cracks into is a very fun character. And I think the fox handler would be equally like, you know, I'm disappointed in you, but you're doing your best, I guess. The one thing I wanted to say as we're talking about cults and not using the C word, sorry, Nicole, cutting into your time, is they're all cults. They're all cults. They're all extremist points of view. So like, I always think the joke is actually like, the joke is that we're constantly talking about it in terms of bunnies.
I mean, is friendship extremist? You know.
I see you. I know you. I know what's happening. I've been in those sessions, Owen. But yeah, I always want to, I think it's funny we talk about it in terms of buns, but not in terms of like a hyper allegorical kind of objectivism, and then a sort of like hyper democratization of knowledge that could potentially be painful, but it's like, but it's fine because it's knowledge for its own sake. And like they're all culty. There's some cults happening. It's fine.
Yeah, everything taken to an extreme illogical extent.
Yeah. All right, Nicole.
Oh, I don't know. And I don't know which department I fit into as a person. So I don't know which one would be like I would fit into as a handler. So I kind of would want to try all of them just to see how they were all different. I feel like as a person, like I'm a Capricorn and I'm a little bit of a control freak and I like to know things. So I feel like ravens, but then I read a lot about Scientology. So it kind of makes me want to be part of the bun so that I can see how far I could push them into like, yeah. So, but that seems
Listen,
like a Fox thing to do.
L. Bun Hubbard was excommunicated from the Bun department a long time ago, all right?
That doesn't mean you don't still have his picture on your wall. So I don't know.
If I were to cast you into one, because intentional casting is a thing, I would have put you in ravens.
Now I know. Knowing is half the battle.
Knowledge is power, caca. Moving on and also tacking on, because we have introduced a new actor who has been mostly behind the scenes for all of Thickett, is Greg. But having a question for our puzzle devs, mostly Miriam and Greg, we are going to answer the question about what was the first Thickett puzzle, or what was the first Thickett puzzle that was created, and how do y'all come up with ideas? Because it is incredibly intricate. Most of our seekers have caught on to the puzzling that has to happen. It's something that a very small team of people puts together, mostly Miriam and Greg, with input from the rest of us in terms of character development, what works, what doesn't. So the two of you go ahead and take it away. And Greg, also answer that question of which handler you would want to play. I'll let you two go at it.
Greg's a raven.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a raven. That would be my preference. I am so I sort of got brought on to Thickett because I have a lot of useless knowledge about sort of mythology.
And that's why we brought you onto the podcast.
Yeah. That's why we got brought on. Why I got brought onto the podcast, and it ended up being a lot of what my role in Thickett has been. Also, is just like, you know, how to make this align with, you know, if we're leaning toward something kind of mystical, how to make it align toward real world mysticism without stealing it. Things like that. So yeah, no, I'm Raven, 100%. I also want to shout out real quick. There are a number of puzzles that have not been done by Mir or I, but have been done by Unique. So he is also sort of part of this, although we end up working on different parts of things. So Mir, what do you want to? I came to puzzling the puzzle core late. So the very first puzzle we did, I had no involvement in. So I'm going to pass it off to Mir.
Actually, so Unique, I see you slowly trying to shrink into your backdrop there. Actually, the first puzzle created for Thickett actually goes to Unique, because Unique is the one that has been creating the slideshow stuff in the Zoom. And so he created that for the beta, and that was before we actually got the puzzles rolling for the main show itself. So first puzzle goes to all of that binary all of y'all had to had to copy down and translate, as done by Unique. You can hate him, not me. The first puzzle otherwise, after Unique's brilliance in all of the Zoom stuff, because it is brilliant, is probably the very first, the mini pixel art y'all got to create as the candle for Quest 1. That was the first one, and that was a fun thing of, okay, now we've made the pixel art, how do we get them to make it? Which led to, yeah, it was. Unique was also part of the team in trying to figure out how to do that, which led us to the smaller puzzles that give you your code words in the actual Entopia on the objects. And that, obviously, as you know now, was the foundation that the meta was built on. As we then made you make a much larger picture. You're welcome. So yeah, that was that. As for sorry, this is me looking at the actual thing. Coming up with the ideas for puzzles is directly tied into the quests themselves. We have a giant list of all of the different like puzzle types and things that we like, and we literally went through that entire list throughout the entire season. I don't think there was a single thing on that list that we did not use,
Sure.
which is still incredible to me. But we look at that, and we look at what story we're doing and what the theme and focus is through the story, and we go, okay, what's interesting to us now? What are we gonna do? Caitlin also sometimes gives us requests of, I want blackout poetry, I want a side tale, whatever else. And we go, okay, and we figure out how to work that
It's
in.
literally like kid in a candy shop where I'll point at someone and I'm like, that, I want that one. Give me that one. And this one looks really cool. I want this one because I'm an adult and do what I want.
Yeah.
So
That's the short version.
Sure?
And
that's the short version.
Yeah, and naturally, as we moved through it, we definitely had this thing of like, okay, this puzzle was cool. Now we got to top it next time. It's been a really interesting process of going, okay, how do we tie this into the quest? How do we tie this into the themes that we're going with? You know, when with the 12 Dancing Princesses, I had this idea that was like, how can we make them dance to figure this out?
And I went, okay, Greg, you can figure that out.
Yep, and I did, and it was a bad idea, but it worked. So
it truly broke him. It broke him for a few days. Yeah,
but some of the like that creation of how do we top this also became it became basically the structure for creating, like, basically throughout the season creating more complex and more difficult puzzles, which, as you know, looking back on it, was like, oh, we were teaching them how to do this all along, which was great. And coming to puzzle and game design from other avenues, it worked out really well.
Yeah, we did a lot of intentional, okay, they already figured out this thing, so how can we incorporate this thing they already know into this next one? We tried to put a lot of callbacks in the puzzles, etc. So anyway, carry on.
Cool. We have a lot of questions to get through, and unfortunately we're not going to have time to get through every single one, so picking and choosing has been my job and is fun. Something I think that works really well with talking about puzzles is, how did we come up with the idea to utilize Topia? I'm going to speak for just a moment and then integrate Caitlin and Miriam into this conversation. But when we first started working in July, it was, okay, what do we have at our disposal here? We have Zoom. Everyone's tired of this. What else can we do? What does CDN do best? CDN does interactive, immersive theater. It's a one-on-one, it's a one-on-many, a many-on-many interaction. And how do we make this something that is translatable in any way? So I'm going to pass it off to Miriam really quickly to just talk about where Topia came from. And then Caitlin, if you could follow up on the decision to use Topia versus just sticking in the formats that we've all been thrust into, a la Zoom.
So Topia actually came from Caitlin, because Caitlin found it somewhere on the internet randomly and went, "Hey Miriam, check this out. Come do this thing with me right now." And so I hopped onto Topia and we checked it out and really liked the customization of it, the ability to create your own art and put it in there. I come from a video game dev background. I am a 2D artist as one of my many jobs and careers. And so this was something I was already familiar with, that mindset for that creation. So I looked at that and went, okay, great, cool. And we kind of, we tested it out. We kind of floated around. I tried a few things, and then we finally decided, yes, we were going to do it. And I disappeared for an entire month in October, just into Photoshop making art. If you ever see me in those behind the scenes things, I'm probably looking over here because I'm probably drawing at the same time. So that's what's happening there. So Caitlin.
Yeah, it literally was like I Googled spatial interactive platform, and Topia was a little bit farther down on the list. I looked at other ones, like a lot of it for me is design and feel, right? Like you can't go into something like, for example, GatherTown is a thing, and it's cool. The format does not fit with the way that we tell stories. It doesn't look like you pop into Topia and it looks like a fairy tale land already. The way that they had initially framed it was for like Burning Man. I'm like, okay, festivals, I can work with festivals. I come from Renaissance Fair land. Cool. How do we start to smash these two things together, and be able to work with this platform to do what we need to do? So what was really great about Topia, like in the creative process of building Thickett, finding Topia, which was a company that was also in stage process for developing as a company, right? Like they are also new. They're also constantly making changes to their platform. And so connecting with them when we did was very much like, oh, hey, we can have a side-by-side conversation and mutual growth, as opposed to like, oh, cool, like Gather's been around for long enough and enough people work with Gather that they're like, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just wasn't what we needed or wanted. And so working with Topia and working in Topia was cool. And the fact that we were able to skin it as we wanted to, and like looking at the art that they already had, and then being able to have this process where Miriam is essentially art director for this, would be able to like, okay, we're to start by like going specifically off of their art and then grow it so that as our assets grow, it becomes our own independent style. There's something a little bit different. So we get to morph and do things and change it in a way that we wouldn't, we'd have to have a much more thorough process for other stuff. But yeah, so I think in terms of like working in Topia has been tough though, is like, so like me as an educator, when it comes to theater education or working with people, working in improv land and stuff, is very much in person. And like I had a rough time in that transition process. And when we first brought in actors, that was hard. So everyone who was there for that first round, I apologize. It was 4 straight days of 4-hour rehearsals of just like, wow, I hate everything about this, but we're gonna get through it together. Because we had no idea how Topia worked. And so being able to start to look at it as like okay, so if it shows up in this part of the screen and then it does this and you can do this, like what are the capabilities and how can we experiment with that as actors, as performers? And you don't get a full stage and a full body, you get this, right? This is what you have and this is what you're going to look at. But you also have these little topies, these little avatars that you can move around in space. And so being able to work with those as your instruments instead was like a huge focus shift. And learning to work spatially, digitally was like, whew. And so that's mad props to Owen, dude, because at one point I was like, I cannot be looking at meta. I cannot be looking at, all the other pieces for show running and also be running rehearsals. And so I went to Owen, was like, hey, help, please? And like was just like, ah. And he was like, yep, great. And it was awesome. Yeah. I'm trying to think. In terms of like what was really helpful though is conquering that first hurdle of, okay, how do you do an interactive theater piece in a digital world? Once we got to that point, then being able to create that one-on-one experience and create moments of intimacy. That was huge for us. Like, and Search and Weave very specifically, like we do a lot of stuff where it's like, our job is not to be here and be big and spectacular and stuff. Our job is to be here and see you, to make you feel seen, to make you feel elevated as an interactor with us. And so a lot of what we do are offerings. Some of it is like very physically, like we're doing an offering at this altar, and some of it is like we are creating this space for you to do things, and then we'll take that. And working in a digital way means that there's all these other tools that we can be pulling from at the same time, which is quite cool and also sometimes terrifying. And then in like the Topia sphere, there's a huge world of experimentation with physicality, with like both like with physicality in the frame, but also like how are all the little Topi bodies interacting with each other. And you guys will have definitely seen this in like the Georgian ritual at the end, for those of you who were there. But in literally being like, let's all chase each other now. We're gonna have like what are those things? And how do they change your experience? Sorry, I got a little bit off topic there, but being able to take our intimate moments, intimate experiences, and translate them into a slightly wider lens. Sorry, gonna stop talking.
Yeah, no, that actually, I posted a question into the chat, and Caitlin, you inadvertently answered it as you were talking of what experiences have you been able to apply from in-person immersive theater to creating these virtual performances, and what new things have we had to figure out? So we are kind of butting up against the clock here, and I want to give our team an opportunity to answer 2 questions. And I've given everyone a little bit of a heads up of of what is a favorite moment in game that has happened to you, either being an interaction with a seeker or preparation, anything along those lines. And what about being involved in Thickett surprised you the most? Either the immersive and interactive element of it, the moving physical theater into a digital space, what types of innovation and things have helped you go through this. So I'm going to have Owen go first. And then if the rest of the dev team could just pop some goons in once you have an answer, and I will make sure to call on you. So try to keep it as brief as possible since we do have a limited amount of time. Owen, go ahead, please.
Favorite moment in game, they're all defined by what seekers produced, like by and handing a group of seekers a prompt and seeing what they do with it is fascinating. Like one of my favorite moments was as the croissant saying like, I need you to sing me something
You're muted.
Owen, you're muted.
Great. So I'll restart. Did I mute in the middle of it?
Yeah.
Hot diggity.
We lost you at as the existential croissant asking a seeker
to sing me a song of existentialism, and one of our seekers, multiple seekers, sang glorious songs. My 2 favorites were row, row, row your boat, or don't, it doesn't really matter. Beautiful poetry. And the other one was I can't remember the exact time signature, but it's a musical piece that is just silence. I think it's 5 minutes and 38 seconds or something like that. And it was poetry. So those were easily favorite moments. And the surprises, I think, were how well like audiences adapted to this totally new thing, and how the ease that some people like lived in this virtual world and like played this video game with live performers was just a delightful surprise.
Awesome. Thank you, Owen. And I must also say that witnessing some of Owen's character creations during the pastry quest were some of my highlights. Next up, could we have Unique jump in on this one?
Yeah, I feel like my favorite moment is two moments in time that are the same moment. One is with a seeker, which I honestly don't remember the quest, but I saw this fox just walking around, and I sort of like went up, playing one of my many dumb and helpful rocks, and was like, "Can I help you?" And they're like, "No, I've decided that my fox path is just helping everybody all the time." And they're like, "So I'm just going to go around and help people, and that's going to make me happy." And then they just walked off. And I know we kind of joke about like the game of the foxes in some ways is like by any means necessary, but it's also about like if I were to pick up a pen, I could rewrite the world, and no one else is going to do it, so I'll do it. And so my twin moment to that was when we were bringing in Kirsten to run Fox Handler. We were going over the ritual and some stuff, and we were talking about like what can stay, what can go. And at a certain point I was over explaining like, yeah, this part like you could change, and she was like, oh yeah, that's cut. I've got something. And that was like 100%, like that's the idea is I very much valorize the little bit of arrogance that tells us like, you know, if someone let me, I would write a better story, because I think that's a very crucial thing for people to have. And I somehow managed to always be amazed and impressed by how much audiences work together and coordinate and can use technology like Discord, which just fries my brain. But especially watching seekers appoint themselves to take care of other seekers rocks my world. Like watching people like take time, gather some people and be like, let me show you how to do this. Like that, it's such a, and watching each department justify it in their own way, right? That rabbits are like, no questions asked, let's go. Ravens are like, we're spreading knowledge. And foxes are like, you are more useful to me, useful. Let's do this.
Awesome. Thank you, Unique. Next up, let's have Theodosia answer this question.
I love Thickett so much. It's been such an experience because I've always wanted to push the boundaries of like, okay, theater is great and all. What can you actually do with it that isn't just putting on King Lear for the 5 billionth time? No offense to King Lear, he's a great guy. He's a guy. But this has always been fun for me because this is like people being able to go into a story and like change the outcome in ways that a lot of the stuff for me was my favorite moments were things that I never would have expected. At the last quest, we were in the Raven chat room discussing, okay, what are some techniques we can use to convince Death to let the doctor live for longer? And then most of the people are giving these very rational answers of like, oh yes, as the Raven way, give knowledge, present this argument. And then one of them, I think if I recall correctly, yeah, it was Raven 46, who was just like, deck Death in the face and steal your candle back and just take it. And it was like, oh, that's an option. Great plan B. And it's just those moments where it's like, this isn't something that I would have expected of a Raven, but it's so beautiful. A little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see that act out in person. But the fact that things like that just happen. Or another time when I asked someone, please give money to save my kingdom. And then she brought like an entire sack of rice in front of her camera. It was just like, here, I have brought you food to feed your people for a month. And it was like, perfect, thank you. And especially with Thickett, the fact that it's different from so many other, it forced me to do it different from other immersive theater where I rely maybe a little bit too heavily on like being super energetic and like having these very rapid paced conversations with people and like bouncing all around the room. You do that in Topia, you've seen the servers and it'll just be like, hey, so it goes a bit okay, do you get all that? And then they're like, no, you can't do that. You can't rely on energy. And so I was forced to come up with other solutions. I think that wraps up everything. Giving it to someone else. Lena, take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. So many great points being made on this one. Kirsten, can you jump in and answer the question? Once again, I will reiterate it because I think it's important. What was your favorite? What was a favorite moment? Not necessarily your favorite. Was a favorite moment in game, and then what about being involved with Thickett surprised you the most, or what have you taken away from it? Take it away, Kirsten. And we.
My favorite moment. Don't do that. That's terrifying, Lena. My favorite moments in game are like whenever the people that I'm working with directly, the seekers I'm working with, totally understand what I'm saying. So exactly not what Theodosia just gave an example of, but like when they totally understand and they go forth and they do it and they come back and it's done. The best example I have of that was I think Friday, my Lavendula, whatever anybody called her at any given time, she answered, it didn't matter. She worked with the Ravens, and there was a point on Friday where no Ravens were coming back to me at all. And I was very worried because the list of herbs was far from done. And then like 5 minutes before I had to leave Topia, a Raven came to me and was like, okay, here is all of the knowledge we gathered. And he just gave me the entire list from top to bottom. And I was so proud. It was so great. And then equally, I want to say also Friday, I went back as handler to see my foxes. And I was like, okay, so I was told that you guys fixed 2 out of 3 of the plot holes. And they were like, no, we fixed all 3 of them. And I was like, what? And they went on and explained to me exactly how they had fixed all 3. And I was like, all right, A, I'm very proud of you for fixing all 3. And B, I'm very proud of you for standing up for yourselves and communicating with each other so that you knew you had fixed all 3. And then it came back that they actually had at the last minute fixed that last one. So like, I love when people understand what's going on and they do it and they're proud of themselves and I'm proud of them. It feels great. The thing that surprised me most working digitally was definitely the addition of Topia, because I had never worked with anything like Topia. I wasn't even aware of the existence of other sites similar. And so having the ability to walk up to people, to talk to them, the fact that it sort of zooms like the sound starts to fade away as they get farther away from you. The soundscaping is amazing. All of the art, oh my God, guys. Like everything about that for me was just mind blowing. And everybody who worked on it is amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, Kirsten. Gonna quickly pop it over to Nicole now.
Okay, so it's hard to pick a favorite moment. The entire experience was fantastic. Everything was fun, from rehearsals and working with the cast and the developers all the way through the games. One of my favorite moments, I think, in the game was in like the second quest. I think I was the devil and I was wagering people in the cave, and someone did something and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this for you, but I never do this for people, so don't tell anybody that I did it. And there were 2 ravens there, and then I had to switch characters and go to Beckaloon, and I was wandering around and I saw those 2 ravens, and they wanted something, and I was like, well, you have to tell me a secret and then I'll give it to you. And they were like, oh, we were just in the cave and we saw the devil told this and this and this. So they told me my own secret back. And I thought that was hysterical. And it's just a tiny little thing, but I was like, they were paying attention and they remembered, and then they used that knowledge. And that's what it's all about. It's so exciting when that happens. And something that surprised me, something that surprised me was, like Kirsten said, transferring everything into a virtual world and having it work, because like I said before, like I come from Renaissance festivals, but I don't game. I've never played D&D. I've never played it. I played Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, and those are the only video games I've ever played, and Oregon Trail. So like translating it back into like what is essentially kind of like almost a Renaissance festival experience, if you're walking along and then you meet up with a character and you talk to them about stuff, or they need something from you. After my initial like what the heck is this? I was like, oh my gosh, this actually really does work. And I can tap into all of that immersive interactive theater experience I've had doing Renaissance festivals for over a decade and put it on here and tap into that and feel like I know what I'm doing. And then on top of that, working with an amazing group of people. And I do a solo show at Renaissance Festival. So to be surrounded by these people who are super talented and super on it, and like everyone's working together was just an extra added bonus cherry on top Sunday that surprised me in a good way.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole.
Real fast, just want to shout out to Lena, who did all the soundscaping for all of our Topias. So
chirp, chirp, tweet, tweet.
Yeah, also that monstrosity.
So sorry. Go ahead, Jen and Greg, please give us some of your favorites and try to keep it a little quick so we can get through everyone.
So also a Rennie, I have been doing improv since I was a kid, D&D. Greg is obviously the DM. I love the mutual surprise that immersive theater improv provides, that like I can surprise you just as easily and readily as you can surprise me. And I love that like back and forth and that exchange of energy. Like I get so hyped about this, and it definitely is different in a digital space, but not so much so. One of my big learnings this year was like, maybe tarot isn't a fun, cute party trick. And people are going to be real uncomfortable when you tell them that they are in a pit of despair. But also that was very funny. So, you know, that's a thing. But I mean, I don't mean to be cheesy, but like really interacting with all of you like gives me so much energy. And I love playing with you. I'll stop talking, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Greg, do you have anything, even though you just came on as a performer for one?
Yeah, so I'm sort of brand new on the performance side,
but also lurking on the Discord, being like, how you guys liking it?
Yeah, I definitely loved seeing Mira and I would just like keep a thumb on the pulse of the reactions to the puzzles and the reactions to things like that. That was incredible for me. And then I think in getting to perform briefly, there was a moment with Jack, who he right at the beginning of one of the days, a seeker came up and was like, "Okay, you're sick? Okay, cool. I've got this. Try this. All right, here's the cure for that. All right, here's the cure for that. All right, here's the cure for that. That's all I got. Sorry, you're stuck rhyming for the next half hour." So, and it was great, just like someone just completely on top of it, and me just being like, oh, well, I guess I'm here now. It was a lot of fun, so much fun. You guys are amazing. Thank you for writing this story with us, because yeah, it's not us writing the story, it's us reacting to it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Brishan, if you could jump in and give us favorite moment and or how has Thickett influenced your life, etc.
So the whole point, the conceit behind Quest 5 was that each department has a family member who assigns them to an animal that snitches on the animal they have to capture, and they bounce back and forth between those three to catch things. The foxes on Saturday did none of that. What they did was they convinced Mumboro the Hornets, played by Owen, to leave their lair. The animals were not supposed to leave their lair, and find Anansi and talked Anansi into capturing Mumboro for them, which was at the same time the most Fox thing and the most Anansi thing they could have done. Is say he's like, oh, okay, Anansi gives us this quest, we're gonna make him capture the Hornets. Here, Hornets, this is why you should come with me. It was so in the world of how it's done, and so completely against anything that we had tried to do that it was just fun to watch. I would have never thought that that was possible, but you're dealing with real life, interactions on a digital form. And so I really like how things like that are available to do in this format. And like also how like as the actors, the NPCs can walk through the world, and you can just walk by a group of seekers and just say something random. You can just do what we call a drive-by and just walk by and, hey, here's a bunch of important stuff you might need. And now that changes everything. And you as a topie are gone. But there's now new information, just like as though you walked by and somebody says, it's going to snow tomorrow. And you're just standing on a street corner and you hear that. So I liked how that mimicked life in terms of that you can just share things, but still leave the space.
Awesome. That was also one of my favorite moments to see recapped. Miriam, if you could go ahead and jump in on this as well.
Yeah, obviously my interactions are in Topia and performance-wise were a little more limited because Georgie usually didn't come out to play until the last 20 minutes of the show. But one favorite there was about quest 2 or 3. I'd start doing the rounds, and I'd get to a point to where I'd get to someone, and they'd go, "Oh, there's Georgie yelling at us to leave," and they just walk away. Or like I'd get like, "Oh, okay, Georgie, great," and they just walk away and leave. I'm like, oh, okay. There was also an incredible moment for me in, again, quest 2 or 3, where someone found Georgie and was like, "Hey, we found this for you," bringing up the stuff happening in the meta. And that was just like, wait, what? You're paying attention? Wait, you made this? Oh, this is great. I don't know how to answer this. So that was a very entertaining moment. And just, I guess, the like other than the end ritual of glory and infamy, depending on which day you did it on, which was just absolutely amazing to watch, all of you seekers take charge, was just incredible. But I've got to say that Gregory's definitely a thing and a favorite. You've only met me once. So yeah, that's kind of highlights for me.
Awesome.
To keep it brief.
Thanks, Miriam. I'm going to give myself a brief moment to actually talk about my experiences here at Thickett as an actor. Favorite in-game moments, I think full circle of being Villager Trinity in quests 1 and 6. The surprising number of people who cut off her toe made me laugh. The strange hesitancy in quest 1 to the eagerness in quest 6, since that toe was required for a ritual. Thanks, Georgie, for doing that. Just made me laugh. And my second kind of top tier moment leads into what Thickett has done for me. And it's the ability to have recurring interactions with seekers who I don't know personally. There are a number of you who I recognize from the camera. I've never met you in person, but I feel like I know you. And there's something about being a character in this immersive space that lets us share intimacy and also improvise together. So you get to be part of our story that we've constructed for you. It's a world that we live in as performers, as humans, and then as characters and as seekers. You get to join us in this very intimate experience, and having those relationships that I've built over the season is something that I'm incredibly grateful for. Also bonus, I can't remember who it was, but I was playing the Trapper and very convincingly dressed up like a grandmother and made somebody start laughing uncontrollably. And it was really wonderful. Somebody's shaking a finger at me, but that was a moment that I will never forget. I'm gonna pass this off again, full circle, to Caitlin to answer what is a favorite moment for you and what has Thickett changed in your life? Then we can move on from there.
First thing is, I think Unique has to bounce. So everyone wave bye and say, get out of my house. Get out of my house, Unique. Bye.
I'm
Get out of
getting
my
out of your
house.
house. Get out of my house.
You. That's what I tell everyone at the end of our dev meetings or anything that I do on Zoom. I'm like, cool, get out of my house. So I forgot to mention at the beginning, I play the secretary. So you may have seen me or not. You may have just heard me yelling at you. What a great question. So one of the favorite moments, it's really hard because here's my perspective difference is I don't actually, like you've seen the watchers wandering around. Sometimes I'm a watcher, sometimes I'm not. So I don't have that same level of experience interacting with seekers, which sucks because you guys are amazing and you continue to surprise us and you're way more intelligent than I would like. There's this expectation of people who are shut up, Jen. But just like when people are coming into theatrical experiences in person, they're usually like not on their A game when it comes to like, unless if you spell out the experience of like, this is an escape room, you need to come in and be smart. Like, and there's a certain way of thinking. But I think this particular space and in the experience that we've built up so far where there's like, you can chime into the Discord and like, there's history and story, blah, blah, blah. There is a plasticity of like that learning curve and how you interact with all of us. That is really amazing to see. And it has absolutely changed over the season. What I am going to say, and then like, you're also all incredibly intelligent, like across the board. And for those of you who are like, I don't know how to do this, then you go and you talk to someone who does, and then you figure it out. And there's been this like really cool curve of like people teaching other people, which we were really worried about, of like, how do you consistently onboard new seekers in a really like in a not painful way? And that's something we talk a lot about, we think a lot about all the time, because that is our biggest like pain point as a dev team, is that onboarding process. So for those of you who have actively run stuff at the beginning, thank you. I think, to be honest, that's one of my favorite moments, if only because it's like, you took a bunch of work off my plate and put it on yours. Aha! But also because it's really cool to see. And just people taking that ownership and feeling that connection to what we do here. Because this wasn't about building a one-time experience. This is about building a universe. And we want people to keep experiencing that. So that's the thing. What I do want to say is I think my favorite moments have always come in the editor sessions, not in the game per se, because as the season went on, y'all got savage and I love it. I am here for it. I'm here for it. And like we talked a lot, like when I was writing the princess letters, talking a lot about tactics and how you guys are approaching things and that learning process, and like input of information and what you guys are doing with it. Amazing. I am going to take a second and shout out to all of my actors, all of them though, because that's who I saw. That's who I watched most, was going to you guys and literally being like, what are you doing? Are you doing your job? I just want to make sure you are. And being consistently surprised with how creative and funny and like intimate and entertaining and clever and just present with everyone you were. And some of it is because of this experience, like you have to be like constantly on it. It doesn't give you space to not be completely present and in that moment. You can't give a passive digital performance unless if you're entirely removed from the camera. That's just not what we do. And every single one of you, it was like, to steal it out of Owen's mouth, it's poetry. It's poetry. And so like literally just watching you guys as actors and performers grow inside of this space, that for me was the best thing. Sorry, Seekers, y'all are great. Y'all the savage. I love my little actor babies, and I'm super proud of all of you. Yeah.
As we're getting sentimental here, we are gonna wrap up, and I'm gonna have Caitlin give us a little bit of a wrap up, like woot woot. But speaking of our universe, we have some exciting announcements coming up. So yay! Thank you for coming on this journey with all of us. And Caitlin, I will let you wrap this up, put a bow on it, and then kick us out of your house.
Yeah, because you're literally in my house right now. My sister drew that skeleton. It has a wig on it. Hold, please. Can you see the wig? Probably not. It's a little light, but she drew it. Anyways, so in case any of you guys are wondering, she's the portraitist. So if anyone got art, those were drawn by my little sister. So first things first, I want to speak about the Legendary Handbook. If you weren't aware, we are consecutively no, that's also not right. We are at the same time as doing all the things for Thickett. We're also producing the Legendary Handbook, which is a podcast that's available basically wherever you get podcasts. And it exists in the same universe as Thickett. We internally refer to that universe as Earth 2. So if you ever hear us talking about Earth 2, it's because that's just the universe that we have invented for Thickett and everything surrounding it. There is absolutely crossover stuff that happens in there, so you should go and listen. Ding! That's a thing. And I know someone had asked in the questions, how can we help? One of the things that you can do to help, especially in this interim time, is to go listen to that podcast. We are, we've learned how to make a podcast. We have learned how to edit a podcast. You can hear as Caitlin gets better at sound editing over the course of the episodes that you hear. But this is something that we've completely internally produced. And we're proud of it and proud of the content. A number of the people who are writers on this are also writers on that, including everyone who's writing on that. Give us a quick hand real fast. Jen, Greg, Miriam, yeah, cool. Well, some of them are here with us right now, but there's a lot of content that crosses over, and I think you'll find it very exciting. And Lena will be dropping links in for stuff as we go. We also have some other fun things. The second thing is the Reddit. We will continue to be active on the Reddit because we have the Discord and we also have a Reddit. On there we post some other BTS stuff that we don't post in other places because it's there and available and we like it. And they also have like a live conversation spot, which I like. I don't know, come hang out with us on Reddit as well if you're not already on the Discord. The next thing is, I gotta pull it up, hold please. No, I just minimized everything. I'm good at this, I swear.
Well, Caitlin is working through technological difficulties as we all deal with on a daily basis of multiple screens, computers, etc. I'm going to drop a link in for our social engagement because who on the internet and doing digital theater does not have social engagement? We have our Patreon, which we will thank you endlessly for monthly support. If you sign up for any of those tiers on there, you will get goodies. The higher you go, the better the goodies get, obviously. And you can get access to things that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. And also know that everything that you do directly goes to support this project and Cirque du Nuit as a whole. So without your support, we couldn't do what we do. Also, please go ahead and find us on the socials, a la Instagram, Facebook, etc. And you can keep up with us on there. We have fun things coming down the pipeline, which I will not disclose at the moment to keep you all suspense.
Ooh. So real quick, I just sent everybody a file. Yes, radio shows, love them. We have a little baby flyer that everyone should have just gotten in their chat, I believe. Smile and nod if you got it, maybe. Yeah, great. I'm like, but season 2 is coming. We are going to start in March with the Spring Blood Rites. Something that we're adding on this season is going to be an orientation. Because we thought that it would be helpful and that was something that people had specifically requested. We don't exactly have the bandwidth to run an orientation before every quest, but we are working at integrating something that will be a regularly scheduled kind of moment, but it's like having a little quest light because we thought that was fun. And then we go through and we're going to have a mid-season just like we did last time. And then we're also going to close with a disorientation because that's how we roll. So you should have all gotten that flyer. It is available for you. There's also links on there that are live that go to our various websites. So there's the Thickett website, the CDN website, the Patreon, and the Legendary Handbook isn't strictly listed, but it's a thing. Yeah, so that, and that also, again, just like, not to keep being like, the Patreon, but we produce a lot of content on there, and we have a really fun time making a lot of really dumb stuff for you, including, but not limited to, a full thing of all of the pastries that I blew up in my parents' backyard. That happened. That was a thing. The other thing that I'm going to do right now, is I am now releasing season pass tickets on the Thickett website for Quest 1 through 6. So those are now available for purchase. We will release individual Quest tickets soon. We just have no free time, and we'll get there shortly. So those are available on there for you. Meow. Trying to think of the other thing that needed to be.
As Caitlin's wheels are spinning, again, just to extend a thank you for supporting us and going with us on this journey. We're all very, very excited for season 2. We're excited for the spring blood rights. Try saying that a million times fast.
Spring blood rights.
There we go. Spring blood tights, spring blood rights, all of that. You also can join us. On more journeys that we have. Without you, we wouldn't have theater to do. And more interim fun content to be dropped soon.
So speaking of the very last thing, I was like, what is it? There was something else that I had to do. I don't remember what it was that I had to say to all you guys. I'm pulling it up right now. There it is. Cool. So figure that out. And just as a quick teaser, just a real fast teaser for what it was, for those of you who can't download it right now, it looks like this. Ta-da! And now I'm going to stop sharing because you can all figure it out on your own. We will continue to be on the Discord. There is also, we'll continue to be active on the Reddit. We're here. We're just, taking a minute, letting our brains rest, and then we're going to go back into development very shortly. So, you guys, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can feel free to turn your mics on and yell at us briefly if you want.
Thank you.
You
guys are all amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Friend, best friend. I know that.
Good show. Thanks, Thickett.
Thank you, Thickett.
I
know Kirsten considers me still a fox, but best friend.
You're still a fox. I'm sorry, but transferring departments by request is the most fox thing you can do. You can't undo that.
Yeah. So I sent a note to Lena when Owen was talking about his best friend doing the exact same thing, and I was like, I feel so called out.
Most fox.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
We love you.
We also love you.
Best friends.
Best friends.
Oh no!
Best friends.
No, Caitlin,
I'm not a rabbit. I'm not a bun.
Caitlin, you've got to hold the line. You can be you're very good friends, but you can't be best friends.
Yeah, I'm like, you're part
of the PR department. You're part of the PR department.
Am I though?
So
Good friends.
Good friends.
Very good.
Don't sign
There
them.
are people out there alone.
Oh no.
Form acquaintances.
94 is like, I'll just convert them all right now.
They couldn't see some things, and then we just held them really close, and then we're kind of really, we know each other a little bit. Awesome.
My witch dance is always like, I like being alone.
Right.
It's
Please
better
stay
here.
away.
Don't look at me. This is my personal space.
I love it when you're far away.
I shoot you into the ether.
So confident. Get lost.
Yeah, I like people. I just think Yo. Cool.
Get out of your
Caitlin,
house.
Caitlin,
Get out of
yeah,
my house.
just-
Thank you. There we go. I was like, guess we'll just, maybe if I just sit here, they'll just be here.
Bye.
Wait, what?
Bye now.
But bye
Oh
now.
God, the
Bye.
first time when I was here, like,
Bye. Have a good day at school, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye
Bye
now.
now.
funny if this hand wasn't attached to my arm.
Oh my.
My
Bye-bye.
goodness, everyone.
Bye-bye now.
Look, what if it's just like a thing that I'm holding right now? Wouldn't that be funny?
Oh. And then we have our favorite seekers who just don't ever leave until we kick
We'll just stay here.
Bye.
Well, and then I just start playing shepherd's tones, and they're like, whatever, NBD.
Have fun.
Sounds
Goodbye.
from Jupiter.
This isn't gonna work. You know
Bye.
O2's stick or
Yeah.
shtick rather.
You know, if you stay here too long, you might get stuck.
Wait, what if I just do the scream, the creepy scream? Will it back it up on this one?
Oh no!
Hang on, let's see.
Okay, bye.
See, I can't tell if it reads well.
It
As-
starts
as
out and then
all-
it knows that it's awful. Yeah, it picks
Yeah,
up
as the entire team like instantaneously goes, "Oh no," and takes our headphones because all of us did that.
Yeah. Burp. I'm gonna just close the thing.
We know who our dedicated speakers are now.
Yeah. We recorded all of your names. Cool. This is being recorded. Thank you.
We'll
We
give
will
you special
probably
prizes for sticking around.
literally nothing. We're probably gonna post this on the Discord, I think. The recording somewhere. Whatever. Maybe we'll put it on the
Reddit?
Yes. Okay, cool. Get out of the house. Bye.